It's the Comedy Slab podcast. Welcome. Thanks for being with us. Can I start off actually with in all seriousness now, with a bit of a sincere thank you? Would that be a bit too gushy?
Well, I don't know if you can do sincerity as a former local radio jock.
Well, I mean that most sincerely, folks. I mean, if he can get away with it, hooey green, then we all can. No, I just wanted to say, just a big up to, and I sent you a note in the week, didn't I, to Ian Klein, who they sent us a note. Ian Klein said, "Hello, good sir." Unless it's Shane reading, then hello.
He's got your number.
Yeah, I thought, he just wanted to say how much he loved the podcast. I won't go into all the details. He sent us a suggestion as well, which we love. If you want to send us a suggestion or something to stick on the slab, we love that, don't we?
We do.
Because we're running out of ideas. No, we're not. But it's just nice. He actually suggested something. I thought, I've never even heard of it. And I had a look on YouTube. He sent me a link, and I can confirm I've never heard of it. So it's a great suggestion, but we'll do that another day, and that has definitely gone on the list. But he just wanted to say how much he loved the podcast, and he's listened to 170 episodes.
Which is all bar, I make it all bar 11, 12 hours now.
Yeah.
That includes this one.
You're lightweight. I don't know what's the matter.
Yeah. Where was he when we were recording those?
That's how insecure I am. I've spent the last week since he sent that note thinking, what's the matter with the 11 that he didn't listen to? What did we do? So
well, the glass is more than half full, I'd say.
Certainly is. Now, I just wanted to say thank you very much. We're glad that it hits the spot, and it's lovely to have you along. So thank you very much indeed for that. If you're not caught up with the podcast before, we're just two. I was going to say ordinary guys, but I think that's kind of an overreach.
Subordinary.
Yeah. We're two subordinary guys who like a bit of comedy. More than like a bit of comedy, actually. I think we're both quite passionate about comedy. And every week we choose a comedy to have a watch and listen to, and then we get together to see collectively what we made of it, and then we'll give it some scores. We'll give it a mark out of 5 each, giving it a grand total out of 10, and we'll also play you a couple of clips as well between now and the end of the podcast. And we choose alternately, just obviously to be fair and equitable, and it was my turn to choose last week, and I chose a sci-fi comedy. So more of that to come. Avenue 5 with Hugh Laurie coming up in a little while. Before we do that, we always have a quick squint at the comedy news. I sent you a story over a bit earlier on, because we choose this alternately as well, don't we? Have a look and see what we see. What did you make of what I sent you?
Well, I think you drew attention to the fact it was an interesting sit, as in sitcom.
Yeah.
But yeah, can I reveal it, or did you want?
Yeah, no, you go for it, big boy. Yeah.
Well, it's being called Deep Heat. It's coming to ITV2. Deep Heat. What might you think from the title? It could be a massage.
Yeah, I thought the muscle thing, that horrible stinky stuff. Yeah.
Well, it's related. It's about a wannabe wrestler who reorganises a troupe after they lose their top wrestlers. And the people behind it are the comedy duo known as Max and Ivan, who are regulars in W1A, aren't they?
Oh, okay. I didn't know what else they'd done before that. The interesting thing, two things I found interesting about this, I don't know whether it struck you as well. Pardon the pun. Wrestling.
Sorry, that was a bit of a blow.
I don't know whether it gripped you as well, but the two things. First of all, is the subject. I thought, I couldn't recall one that had been done previously about the world of wrestling, but more of that in a second. But the other thing is that they're and apologies to the cast, I don't mean this in a disparaging way, but are they kind of all relatively unknowns as well?
I think so.
I only had a quick scan of the cast, and I thought they're not kind of big names, are they? I mean, they say they're going to have guest appearances from people like Matt Lucas and John Thompson. So, and I just kind of thought, that's interesting, isn't it? That they've kind of done a kind of double whammy there, really, by saying, right, okay, we're not having massive names, and it's a kind of niche sit.
Yes, but isn't it so often? This is not the first time I've said it. I'm not the first person to observe it, but we care more about the com than the sit, don't we? And actually, sitcom is car com, as in character com. So you can set a show on the moon, or as we'll see, in a spaceship. You can set it anywhere. There's been comedies about a funeral parlour. That's your funeral, and so on and so forth. Comedies set in cafes. Loads, of course, in the past in domestic situations, perhaps a bit less now.
Mm.
Isn't it about the quality of the characters and the interaction between them?
Well, I don't know. I think a good sitcom, for me, the situation is almost as big a character as the others. And I'm thinking of things like Porridge.
I would thought of it that instant. Yeah, that is one... certainly a situation where hard to see the characters outside of it or working in the same way. Obviously, you see the central character Fletch sometimes outside of that situation, but that's an exception rather than the rule. Yeah,
I think, and you have to get that right, don't you? I think you have to get the situation right in a sitcom. It has to be. It either has to be, become a big character in the kind of Porridge situation, or it has to be plausible, like The Office, for example. I think it was the first time where it was plausible, and people thought, I've worked in a place like that, and so it kind of adds that sort of air of respectability to the quality of what you're watching, because you think, actually, if this was a drama, I'd go, I can relate to this. This is real.
But then the logic of that would be that people couldn't relate to Avenue 5, but as we'll see, I think, aren't we back to characters again there, and flawed characters at that, because you don't have perfect characters.
But that holds up my argument. That's what I'm saying, is that if you, and you're right. I mean, I'm not going to all relate and go, that's just what it's like in space, but it has to be realistic. You have to feel that is what it, even though we don't know, we have to feel that that's what it's like in space, or that's what it would be like in space, or that's what it would be like in that city. Do you know what I mean? Is that, and I mean, we'll talk about this later, I'm sure, about special effects and about what they can do now and what they could do 30 years ago are like, night and day, aren't they? But
that's what they could do 30 years ago, night and day.
Well, they could do night and lighter night, couldn't they?
Or day for night.
Yeah.
Night for day. Night and day.
Do you remember the Hammer horror films where they couldn't actually shoot at night because they hadn't got they hadn't got it right? So they used to shoot it at tea time and hope that it got a little bit darker.
I'm scared.
Underexposed the film or overexposed. I can't remember which way around.
They overexposed the ladies, didn't they?
They certainly did. Can I just mention? I mean, we wish it all the best, and it'd be interesting to see. And I'm sure it'll end up on the canvas as well as on the slab. My first reaction was, well, it's never been done before. I mean, the most cursory of investigations reveal that it has been done before as a situation.
Right.
I bet you wouldn't get any of them, to be honest with you, because I hadn't heard of any of them. In America, there was a 2017 comedy drama called Glow.
Right.
About a troop of wrestlers. In Canada, in 1988, there was a sitcom series called Learning the Ropes, which
see what they did there.
Yeah. And there was the only thing I could find in the UK was a film starring the wonderful Stephen Graham. You know, that the Scouser that we slabbed in Code 404. He was in a film called Walk Like a Panther, which came out in 2018, which was about 1980s wrestlers getting the band back together, kind of thing. So I suppose it has been done, but only a few times. But no, I look forward to this. It's interesting. Any thoughts on it appearing on ITV2? I mean, talk about stick it out the way. I mean,
well, my concern for them is that I imagine their budgets are pretty tight. I imagine if you even get a commission on ATV1, you don't feel you're awash with cash these days. I've never quite understood that why budgets were going down at the time that, profits at certain stages have gone in the opposite direction. But hey, I'm not really across the numbers, but you would have thought the technology is making everything cheaper now, the way they can edit things and so on. ITV2. I would imagine the budgets are tighter. As in, if you get an hour commissioned on, this is in a different genre, but documentaries on BBC4. Well, I haven't seen figures recently, but when I last looked, something like £40,000 an hour, which might sound generous. If we were all earning £40,000 an hour, that would be good, but that's not quite how it works in TV, compared to £100,000 to £200,000 an hour on BBC One. And you think, well, you want it looking the same at the end. So how are you going to scrimp and save and make it look as good? Well, one answer is to have lesser known names, which brings us back to this show. I wish them well, but they've probably got their work cut out.
Well, interestingly, they billed it as, and this is ITV's Paul Mortimer when he was interviewed about it. He said, Dee Peter's a brilliant new addition to ITV2 and ITV Hub. And he says, as we continue to bolster our scripted comedy, which they were about to murder in cold blood, weren't they?
Obviously.
18 months ago.
Yes, I remember that now. Sorry, I thought you were going off on one, but
no,
that's true.
Remember, they said they were going to kill it. They didn't want any scripted comedy, and if anybody mentioned it, they'd be thrown from the 18th floor of the London Weekend Television Towers as well.
Those were their exact words.
Yes, something like that anyway. Yeah. But it says the writers have created these brilliant and hilarious characters set in a fictional pro wrestling company, but the content is for younger viewers. I don't know.
Yes, I thought that was a bit...
Is that a get out of jail freak? I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure we look at ourselves. We think we're younger viewers, don't we? So I guess we'll slap it at some point.
Well, we're younger than some other viewers. As long as you can find someone older than you, you're a younger viewer.
True. Anyway, on with the business of the day, young man.
Thank you, young sir.
And it's over to you on this. And well, I'll tell you, it's Armando Iannucci who's directed this. It's called Avenue 5. I think it went out on HBO or it went out on Apple TV via HBO, didn't it? I think they've got a kind of tie-up sort of thing.
Yeah.
Although it's Armando Iannucci's production company that produce it, a Dundee production for HBO is the official way that they describe it. And it's Hugh Laurie in space. I mean, I never thought I'd say that in a sentence, given the stuff that he's done. Thoughts when, I mean, had you heard, I can't remember, had you heard of this at all or not?
I think I'd heard of it, but not seen it. That's definitely the case. And parked a little out of the way in terms of what you can see in the UK, unless, of course, you're an Apple subscriber, which I'm not currently. But I thought, well, that anything that Armando Iannucci does has got to be of interest. Doesn't mean it's all of the same quality, or it's such a personal thing, personal taste, isn't it? Comedy, but and Hugh Laurie on top. Well, I kind of. I lost Hugh Laurie I feel I lost him to America, and I saw one edition of House. Well, I am a Unitarian, so did you watch House at all?
Not a great. Well, I've seen it. I'm not a big fan. I don't think it's his finest hour. But I mean, we've been spoiled, haven't we, with some of the great stuff he's done here. I mean, I would rather sit and watch Jeeves and Wooster with him and Stephen Fry than an episode of House. To be honest with you, that's more my up my alley. Was
it episode 100 that I put a little bit of Fry and Laurie on the slab? This is how far back I go, and lucky enough to work on it back in those days. That was the kind of Hugh Laurie I was interested in, that sort of quirky humour, and not been over enamoured since. But certainly, I had an open mind to it, and it was certainly of interest. Yes.
I think the problem is he's working within an environment there which is very formulaic, isn't it? So I think you've been a Unitarian, it works well for you, because if you've seen one episode of House...
You've seen them all.
And that's just the way it is. I mean, that's just how either Americans like their TV or American TV executives like to make it, whichever one of those is the truth. Shall we have a quick clip and give us a bit of a flavour, and then we can have a headline and see where we are from there? Would that be that good for you?
Good for me, good for you. It's our formula anyway.
Okay. So it is a bit formulaic, isn't it, now I think about it? Yeah, it's
brilliant.
We've been oystered by our own petard, haven't we, there, really? But
I think it's genius, but then slightly biased.
All right, then, clip one. We catch up with Hugh Laurie and his character, Captain Ryan, doing his morning tour of, and this is kind of all we know at this stage, he's just doing a morning tour of the spaceship.
Captain Ryan?
My daughter wanted to meet the hero who saved Avenue 3.
Oh, well, Oh, you mean me?
Yes.
We're all heroes on this ship. What's your name?
Jade.
Powerful name.
Okay, Captain Jade has the bridge, everybody. Just in time to press the button to clear the main thrusters. It's not connected to anything.
This way, Captain Jade.
Good morning, Iris. Surrounded by stars, and yet still you shine.
Noted. Mr. Judd is indisposed.
Oh, that's a shame.
He's fracking some merchandise ideas, and he just hit gas.
Did he say that?
Yes, he did.
Of course he said that.
So you're hosting the passenger breakfast. Your guests.
Is that Mrs. Rodriguez?
It is.
Yeah, I met her yesterday. Deaf in both ears.
You could just say deaf.
I hear you, Iris. Because I'm deaf in no ears.
Breakfast isn't...
Crew karaoke tonight, Captain?
I only ever sing when I'm drunk, so ask me again at 5 p.m.
You got it.
Breakfast isn't...
Hey, set your phasers to fun. Hey, Captain. They are so great.
No, they're really not. Breakfast is in 20
minutes, yeah.
Okay. You know what you could talk about? We just set the record for the biggest yoga class in space.
Really? Who'd we beat?
So, who did they beat?
I just, do you know, that's if you had to say what's the stamp of Armando Iannucci, it's that cynicism, isn't it? You know, it's like, oh right, well we've done that. Who did we beat? It's like obviously nobody, because nobody's trying to do that as a record. It's
Well, you say that. I found myself thinking, are there heats? Are there whole leagues? Yoga in space? That could be a spin-off series, couldn't it?
Yoga in space.
You'll be wanting a headline. Avenue 5, not sure it's up my street.
Oh.
Now, I had to soften it because originally it was Avenue 5 isn't up my street.
Okay.
That was after one viewing. Second viewing, I've gone a bit wobbly.
Oh.
I think I might be going native or going sci-fi-ish. And I warmed to it. I don't know what caused the difference between viewing 1 and viewing 2. Maybe I was in a better mood. That's why we do it, really, try and even out some uneven possibilities, because you might be watching in a different mood, different environment.
So what did you take against first time round? Can you remember?
Yeah, and it's an old criticism with me, and you're probably going to say, "Oh, we don't like fantasy, that aid chappie."
Well, you don't. I was going to say that first, but I'm glad I left it now, because you give me an idea for a voice.
That was me impersonating you. I thought it was genius.
Do I sound like that? Okay.
Yeah, Dead Ringers, come on down. Give me an audition. Give me an audition. It felt like, right, throw a lot of money at it, put lots of extras in, build big sets. Oh, neglect the actual characters, which, I've gone full circle with my beef about it's character com, not sitcom necessarily.
Right.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, was there any element of because you are, we didn't like comedy, that fella, Adrian. You are renowned for your, should we say, resistance to fantasy-based comedy. Could we say that? Is that a fair comment?
I'm not sure. Well, I can't be bothered to argue. If you feel it's that way, then it is. I wonder whether it's the fact that those situations tend to eclipse the characters. That's my excuse.
Right. You're right. I mean, it does smell of big production. All the. I mean, I've got a number here. Hang on a second. There were 50 stunt performers.
50. I guess a sequence where they we don't just spoil it too much, but there's a certain physicality at one point, isn't there?
Yes, for a lot of people.
Yes.
But even so, like, can you imagine, doing Deep Heat on ITV2 and somebody saying, well, this is the point where 50 stunt performers, and they go,
sorry, hang on.
Sorry, did you say
50 stunt performers on one day is your budget for the entire series?
Yeah, and if you get a series 2 as well, yeah.
Yeah.
So it does stink of money, doesn't it? But I mean, and sometimes that can be a distraction.
Well, didn't you tell me off when I said of Good Omens, the Terry Pratchett thing, Michael Sheen and David Tennant. I said, same criticism, and of course the same criticism from you. Oh, it's a fantasy piece, that's why you don't like it. But check it out, folks, if you haven't heard it
is
already.
starting to become a common thread, isn't it? I have to say. I mean, you're not doing yourself any favours, darling.
As threads go, I am very common. I confess to that. But I said then, it looked like a load of money had been thrown at it. And you said, yeah, well, that's good, isn't it? And I thought for a moment, if it was me, if the boot was on the other foot and I was either a performer or a writer or anything to do with the show, yes, I'd love them to splash the cash. My concern was with that and with this, that it has eclipsed the likability of the characters, or it's a bit upstaged it. But I have to say, second viewing, definitely warmed to it and enjoyed the not insubstantial wit of the script. So I was maybe I just had to get past the visuals, right? Okay, settle. I've got it. That's what it is. There's no point fighting it. It is what it is visually. And then I could listen more. And then I did like the wit, although it is a bit churn it out. I mean, do you like any of the characters, or are you empathic with them? Do you care enough to see their progress throughout the rest of the series?
No, well,
It's a yes/no question. I must push you, Prime Minister.
The Rebecca Front character, I really didn't like at all. But then I never think, and I've never met the woman, so I don't know whether this is true or not. But I never think that Rebecca Front, as a when not in character, never comes across as warm and likable to a degree. So I'm not really quite sure whether I've got that in my head, that whenever I've seen her, I've kind of wanted to like her and haven't come away feeling like that. But yeah, I probably not but I felt a bit disconnected from the characters, and I do wonder whether that's because they're American characters. And I don't mean American people, I mean American characters, because that's a different thing, isn't it?
Although, hold that thought, because of course in the second clip we hear there is a question mark over the nationality of one of the characters.
You see, I think that's just brilliant, because I mean, even I'm writing my notes sort of contemporaneously, and I put when Rebecca Front came in, and I thought, why is she doing an American accent as well now? Couldn't they make the British, because this is very much an Anglo-American thing, isn't it? I mean, there was a British casting director and an American casting director on it, casting for both sides of the Atlantic. And I kind of thought, well, why can't she be an English character? Why does she have to be an American character? Are they that unable to appreciate there are other people in the world other than Americans, for the American market? I mean, but then, of course, that was, as you say, that was all turned on its head, wasn't it, a bit later on, and I felt such a fool.
We will get to that. But since you talk about a sort of co-production type thing, it's a joint, well, no, is it classed as a Dundee production, which you were telling me is Armando Iannucci's production company, a Dundee production for HBO, but that could be a co-production, couldn't it, with HBO putting up half the cash? I don't know.
I guess so. I mean, I'm not really quite sure how the whole HBO thing works, because HBO is actually a channel as well, isn't it? So, but then this is also an Apple TV thing, but is that in the same way that things go to Channel 4 and then go on to Apple TV? I'm guessing that's how it works. The interesting thing is Dundee Productions. I don't know if you noticed it. You didn't look them up at all, did you, this time?
I thought I'd leave it to you, because you're so good at that.
Is, of course, one of the directors is one Armando Iannucci. Another director who has now resigned was one Stephen Coogan.
Oh.
And the third director was a man called, and I don't know if this will ring a bell with you instantly, it either will or it didn't with me, it was a guy called Peter Carroll. You know Peter Carroll?
I'm hoping you're going to give me some connection to him somehow.
Well, Steve Coogan is the connection to him, and Peter Carroll is his real name, but not the name that we know him by.
But not Peter Bain. It's not another Peter, is it?
No, it's a good guess actually. No, it's Henry Normal.
Oh wow!
So Dundee Productions was co-owned by Armando Iannucci, Peter Carroll, or Henry Normal, and Steve Coogan, both of those. I mean, Peter Carroll has retired now because he's actually 65 and he's decided to knock it on the head. Steve Coogan resigned his directorship from so he's just Armando Iannucci now. But yeah, I thought how interesting was that it was Henry Normal and Steve Coogan that started, and I presume this is all came out of when they worked together on the Day-to-Day, sometime after that, really.
Gosh, could go way back when. But I have to say, I hadn't observed the Dundee credit before, but that doesn't mean, it hasn't been rolling in front of my eyes when I haven't been paying attention. I haven't been in the slab mode of thought. Weren't
they involved in the thick of it? I think maybe he did that through his production company as well.
I think the writers weren't they? Because I was looking at their credits, the writers for this one, although there are other writers for other editions.
Massive. You're talking about 50 stunt performers. How many writers on this?
Yes, roughly the same number. Whether they're all stunt performers as well, we don't know. History doesn't record. and were they writing while stunting? I don't know.
They'll come out with pens stuck out their forehead. Oh, this job's killing me.
Oh, I confused the two jobs. Oh, me, silly me. Yeah. Did you like the writing, though?
Yeah, my biggest fear with this was that it was going to become the thick of it in space.
There are worse things to happen, aren't there? Or you're obviously not a thick of it fan, then?
Oh no, I'm a thick of it fan. I mean, probably more accurately would be the American version of the thick of it. The film in the Loop was the one that you did in the States, wasn't it? It was going to be, and I think to a degree, I think you kind of don't. You think you get the Armando Iannucci vibe from this? Did you get that?
I have to say, if I didn't know he was involved, I'm not sure I could have picked that up. Certainly it was, witty, sassy, a bit smart ass, if we may say that, which I suppose, if you think back to, did you ever see any of the Friday Night Armistice when Armando was in front of the camera many years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was always a little bit possibly too clever for its own boots, or maybe I'm not clever enough for it, whichever it was. I don't know what made him want to go behind the camera, or do we know any stories there? Or presumably, obviously, he found a gift in directing and so on.
No, I'm not really quite sure. I mean, I do think, and this is purely from an amateur sort of wetting my finger and sticking it in the air kind of thing from what I've seen. But I do think that if you're, as Armando Iannucci seems to be, so full of ideas and so full of ready wit, and you find it so incredibly easy, there's only so much that you can do as yourself. And I think if you start bringing in other writers and start to encourage them, and then they feed into you and you feed back into them, and then if you start bringing in other performers, it starts to look differently. It's like you couldn't imagine Armando Iannucci in the Hugh Laurie role, could you? You think
no, you wouldn't carry that off.
No, and it turns out that Hugh Laurie, for what you want and what appears and what comes out of the first episode, is just a perfect fit, isn't he, for it? It could have been written for him, probably was. Who knows?
I've just remembered an anecdote because, of course, Armando Iannucci was at the BBC in a staff role. I remember him having a staff card. I seem to, whether I dreamt that bit, but certainly he was, I think, on the salary for years, and arguably years after you might have expected him to go off. And the story he gave was, all these people in comedy who just creative minds, they make shows on the payroll of BBC or wherever, and then they want to go off and start their own production companies. They got into comedy because they don't want to do an office job on the phone and at the computer all day, and then they end up in an office which has got some comedy brand name on the door, answering the phone and writing at a computer. So that was his reason he gave. Whether he was just keeping the BBC happy, I'm not sure. I doubt he doesn't seem to be looking back. I doubt he regrets jumping off the salary. Do you?
Oh, no, I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, normally there are people who work for the BBC tend to have stories of oppression and
that's you.
Oh yeah, that's me. Sorry. no, but they do, don't they? They have stories of on we weren't allowed to do it the way we wanted to do it and all the rest of it, and they were too controlling. That is a very often told tale, isn't it, from creatives in the BBC, and that's why they go, because they felt stifled or whatever. And at one time budgets was an issue as well, wasn't it? It was that they didn't have the money to fling about like other people did. So I never heard him say that kind of thing. So I'm not really quite sure. Do you know what he did as a staffer? I mean, when he was a staff producer, producing the day-to-day, I think we'd find if we went back. Oh, he was actually staff when he was doing the day-to-day?
I think so, because I just remember a documentary where he actually had a BBC office and he made light of the fact that he'd just moved into it, supposedly. I mean, you don't know how much it's a performance. Now, you're making me nervous, but it was delivered as if fairly straight. But there was a whiteboard on the wall and he'd only just moved in and it had all these sort of geeky corporate terms like workflows and strategy and all of that. And he was roundly mocking it. And I took it as, pretty much on face value. And I felt it was at least true that he was on the payroll and developing stuff for the BBC for years.
You do realise that I'm going to spend the rest of the evening now scaring YouTube for Armando Iannucci interviews, most of which will be absolute rubbish red carpet things. What's your favourite? Oh yeah. Sandwich filling kind of rubbish, isn't it, really?
And whether you can find it, I couldn't guarantee it's out there, but good luck. And I cannot remember the title of that documentary. But
if I do, I'll just send you the link straight away, just so that.
Just check my memory and check whether we both believe it.
Yeah, so you haven't gone insane. Should we have another clip? And
I think it's high time, yeah.
Because there is... It's quite. This is kind of a sort of pivotal moment in the episode, if not the series. I'm guessing, but I don't know. I am tempted to watch the rest, and I will be watching the rest. So I will report back from the dark side.
Please do.
Even though you've only watched one episode, you lazy sausage.
It may not be such a dark side, or are you having a pop at me for behaving as if it's the dark side?
Well, you don't want to put the hours in, do you? That's your trouble.
I want your report on my desk by Monday morning. Otherwise, it's your nadgers in a jam jar on my desk. The choice is yours.
They have an incident on the Avenue 5. They have what's known as a gravity flip. I don't know whether this is a real thing or whether it isn't. I'm guessing it isn't. But essentially, it's quite funny to watch. I don't know whether it should be or whether you should be heart in mouth, horrified at the whole situation. But essentially, for some reason, I can't remember what it was, but the gravity flips round and it means all the people get slammed against one side of the spaceship, and then it stops. So they have this. There are significant injuries to the crew and the passengers, not to mention the 50 stunt performers who were bobbing around in there as well. Hugh Laurie's character, Captain Ryan, meets with the ship's owner, a guy called Herman Judd. Iris, who's an associate owner apparently of the Avenue 5, and Billy McAvoy, that's female Billy, who's the second engineer on the ship. And Judd asks the captain what his plan is.
Well, plan is a little grand. It's not quite there yet.
I want answers. You're the man who saved Avenue
3.
3.
That's right.
I read the reports. I don't even read. You're a damn hero.
Yeah, you were a hero then. Be a hero now.
You're the captain, so you
should... for fuck's sake, what is the matter with you people? It was the paramedics. I've said this over and over again. The fire on Avenue 3 was put out by firefighters, and the sprinklers came down from the ceiling. I was a bystander. I can be in the vicinity of a catastrophe wearing a nice hat. Anything more than that, I'm out.
Look, first things first, we need to calm the passengers.
What the hell just happened with your voice?
Yeah, what the hell?
I raised my voice.
No. No, you did like a puppet show, and then you did like a different voice.
No, I definitely didn't.
You definitely did.
Yeah. You did like a...
Okay, it wasn't exactly like that, but it was very similar.
Are you Australian?
Am I Australian?
Yeah.
No, I'm not Australian.
All right.
I'll tell you what I am. I'm English.
That's so much worse.
You think that's worse? Well, this is worse even than that. I'm not a captain either.
Oh, that makes sense.
Oh my
that makes
God.
A lot of
Are
sense.
you an admiral?
No, what?
Vice Admiral?
No, this is a driverless ship.
But is that a Rogerless script?
Good.
Mm-hmm. Well, is it good? I don't know. Is that unkind? It's very sharp. I have to say, the I'm very slow to the chase here. The billionaire owner of Avenue 5, who we heard there with it, is played by Josh Gad. Are we familiar with him? Because he was very good. Herman Judd plays.
He's been in Frozen, which is a kids thing. He's also been on Broadway.
Let It Go.
Well done. You do know.
Yeah, not bad. That's 2 jokes in one evening, nearly.
He's been on Broadway in the musical The Book of Mormon, and
which I saw the other week. Well, not the Broadway version, but
what did you think?
Loved it. Hilarious.
Okay.
I don't think I would think that if I was a Mormon, but apparently they did quite well out of it. More converts to the Mormon cause. So that's
wow.
That's not necessarily what the writers intended, but anyway, do continue.
So that's his heritage. Why?
Right.
What were you? And you were going to say?
I was going to say, doesn't it remind you of a certain billionaire who's putting money, getting people into space? Actually, there's more than one billionaire that fulfills that, isn't there?
They're
queuing up. You've got your actual Richard Branson. You've got your Elon Musk. Yeah, you've got.
I always think that sounds like a perfume idea, don't you?
Yes. Keep that Just Musk freshness. It needs your deep voice.
Why don't you try Elon Musk for men who don't have to go to space
too often? Right. Well, that's got me going.
Oh, sorry. I did like that line when he said, "Are you Australian?" He went, "No, I'll tell you what I am. I'm English." He went, "That's so much worse." Because when you go to America and you talk to people in America, and you're in a diner or wherever you happen to be, in the shops, whatever, and they always go first, "Are you Australian?" It's like it's a crime to say, "Are you English?" If they get it wrong.
Yeah, they're trying not to hurt your feelings.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he's a bit of colour there. Also, I would say, now, have I got the right person? Is it Susie, is it Nakamura, playing Iris Kimura, an associate owner of Avenue 5? She's got the sharp put down. She's that one, isn't she?
That's right, yeah. She's like the kind of assistant, isn't she, to Herman.
I warmed to her frostiness, which is really paradoxical if you think about it, but she certainly had the sharp put downs. And, it begins with her just saying noted to a compliment we heard at the beginning.
Yeah, she's like a real ice maiden, isn't she? She's devoid of any kind of humanity or personality at all, and doesn't do small talk or anything like that. One of the outstanding stars for me was, I don't know if you recognised him from when we slabbed Silicon Valley. Zach Woods playing a character called Matt Spencer, who's the head of customer relations. I
hadn't spotted the link. Remind me what he was doing in Silicon Valley. A long time ago.
He was a kind of middleman between the coders and the people who they were trying to get funding from at Silicon Valley. He was a kind of very nervy sort of management guy who wasn't a coder. He wasn't a computer person. He was more of a people person, but he wasn't a very good people person. He's very kind of nervy. He's playing this kind of nihilistic PR person that hates people, isn't he? And this thing, which is kind of quite interesting. But I really like him. I could watch him in anything, to be honest with you. I think he's a really good actor, great character actor as well. And it's nice to see him doing something a bit different.
It is quite sophisticated as comedies go, and. Yeah, I think there's more going on under the surface than I gave it credit first time round.
Did it wet your juices at all, or to say, I'll just want to see what happens next episode? Because it did for me. Did it? I know it's a big ask. It's a bigger ask for you than it is for me.
It's big ask for a Unitarian. I'm not surprised that you're interested. Maybe there's some wiring error somewhere genetically in my head that makes me think, well, I'll probably see similar characters that I'm equally interested in another show if I watch that.
Right. I don't know whether you were hit on the head by a box set of Fireball XL5 when you were a kid or something, and now you don't like...
I never saw Fireball XL5, although strangely I think I ended up with an annual. Do you remember annuals? Do they still do those for kids?
I can beat that. I've got the record somewhere.
The gramophone discs.
It's called Journey into Space with Fireball XL5. And it was my brother's, because my brother was born in 1959. And it was my brother's, and it was all about what was going to happen with the moon landing, but through the eyes of Fireball XL5 cast.
Fantastic.
Genius. Yeah. I've still got that. I presume it would be worth a couple of quid now, but I don't think I'd part with it.
Anyway, I've got a feeling we're sort of heading somewhat inexorably towards giving it a mark out of 5 each and totting up to 10, as the pair of totters we are.
I think if we were on the generation game, we would be shouting, let's have a look at the scores on the doors. Marjorie Ford.
Miss Ford, whatever
your name is, yeah. Yes, I think, and it's definitely your turn to go first, because I think you're a bit of a slacker in the who goes first department.
Yes, and I realise I haven't given it a moment's thought, but that might be quite good because I tend to overthink things. It's between 3 and 3.5. I'm going to give it 3.5. Err on the side of generosity because I have a feeling it would bear a bit more exploration. That's not the same as me saying I'm going to do it, but I think it's got enough going on. It's witty enough, clever enough, and who knows, might even warm to 1 or 2 characters.
It's going to sound like a fix now, but that's where I was at with it as well. It's a 3.5 for me. I was going to give it a 4, and I kind of thought, and I know we do it within the confines of 1 episode, and that's probably why I didn't do it, because I think if I watch 2 episodes, I think I might, if I enjoy that and it wins me over, I might well have come back with a 4. So I'm going to stick with the 3.5 for it. But fine piece of work. Really enjoyed it.
You'll be wanting some homework for next week, will you not?
I would love some.
I was listening to a show, and this isn't the homework, but it's a clue and is how I got towards the homework, which is just the other night. It's a Radio 4 series running at the moment with Joanna Lumley and a certain Roger Allam. And that one is quite a dry thing about a couple that have been together for years, but it's also tender. I toyed with the idea of putting that on the slab, and then I thought, I prefer Roger Allam, where he gets, if anything, a bit more centre stage, get a bit more room to swing his elbows or whatever. Do you know a series called How Does That Make You Feel?
I've heard of it. I've never. It's a radio series, isn't it? Not
it is Radio 4.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
So you'll find it online, certainly in the UK, bbc.co.uk. You'll find it on BBC Sounds, I'm sure. Not for much longer, though, as we speak, not these particular episodes. And what's doing my head in is I'm convinced there's more than 1 series. Anyway, The series is definitely called How Does That Make You Feel? Because they're only 15 minutes long, I'm going to put 2 on the slab. Sadly, most of them don't have Roger Allam in. So I had to go to, I think it's episode 5 was the only one I could find in whatever this series is that isn't numbered, so it's very confusing. I hope you find the right one I'm talking about. So we'll throw in a bonus episode 4, but I don't think that one has got Mr. Allam in, but it might have someone else in you enjoy just as much. So episodes 4 and 5 on BBC Sounds. How Does That Make You Feel? 2 lots of 15 minutes. It's in the world of therapy, as you might have guessed from the title, and unless he's playing some other character that I never got up to speed on, I believe he's playing an MP in therapy. I mean, to me, that's funnier than Tony Soprano, but hey, each to their own. I hope you enjoy it, and we'll talk about it next week.
You were close. There are 11 series, 55 episodes. So,
well, I have no idea which series number it is, but as we speak, if you just search for it on the BBC website or on BBC Sounds, you're not going to go too far wrong. Certainly find one with Roger Allam. We can at least sort of gather around that one and enjoy it, I hope.
Listen, thanks for being with us. We've enjoyed having your company. And as Adrian said, spread the word. Although, I don't know, every time I hear him every week, he's that far away from just being a stalker. Do you know what I mean? I just kind of think,
I'll sue your ass for that.
Give me a nice, cuddly, warm, starry hug. That's lovely. And don't forget, this podcast has been sponsored by
Elon Musk, for men who don't have to go into space too often on a Wednesday.